Okay. Madam MC, is 1 minute to 6. Do you want to do invite the Zoom etiquette?
Absolutely. Welcome. I'm going to invite Nick Collins, our Zoom master this evening, to provide our Zoom etiquette. So over to you, Nick.
Oh, thank you. Welcome everyone to the next session of the District 71 Sunday Leadership Series. My name is Nick Collins and I'm one of your Zoom masters for the day. Before we start, I'd just like to run through some basic Zoom etiquette, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with at this stage. Can you please ensure that you have your microphones muted if you're not speaking? We welcome you to keep your videos on. We will be recording today's session, and our chat function will remain on for messages which are relevant to the webinar. And our chat monitor today is Sue Burnett. So if you have any questions, please message her directly in the chat. If you have any technical issues, can you please message me directly in the chat? I'd like to hand you over now to this evening's host, Sue Burnett.
Thank you, Master Nick Collins, for your etiquette this evening. I'd like to give everyone a wonderful welcome to District 71. And you are all very welcome here, and it's great to have you here in this room today. So I'd like to greet our distinguished guests. We have many in the room tonight, so I won't name you individually, but you are all very, very welcome. We have an exciting item on the programme this evening, which is from our poet in residence, Prince Aqua. So I'm really looking forward to that. So before we jump into our poetry, I just want to remind you to send me any questions that are relevant to our meeting tonight in the chat, so we can ask them at the appropriate time. So please put your questions in as we go through the meeting directly to me. If they go in the main chat, then I might miss them. So do send them directly to me. That would be really, really helpful. So the next item on our agenda is our poet in residence, Prince Aqua. So please put your hands together for Prince Aqua, our poet in residence.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sue, for that warm welcome. It's great to be here and great to see all your lovely, beautiful smiles once again. So today, seeing as we're talking about leadership, I thought I'd do one that I wrote for the 100-year anniversary of Toastmasters. Again, a very important milestone built on the shoulders of great leaders that have come before. So hopefully for the next 100 years, we can also look to the future and take those steps going forward. And this is called A Century Ago. Hello, dear wheat, hello. And new dawn begins to bellow. And new dawn built on the shoulders of giants. For 100 years, we have formed this alliance. For a century, we become the masters of toast, the masters of cheer, and the masters of host. What butters our bread is different from that of most. So please come close, grab a pen, and take notes. In 1924, we burst through the door. A century it has been, and what a century, of course. And at a time like this, it can help to look back and recap to understand the Toastmasters' impact. A century ago. A century ago, we burst through the door. And 21 years before, the first plane did soar. And just like that plane, our words take flight off the runway of our page as we master the stage. A century ago, we burst through the door, and decades either side, the world waged war. But we wage war, but not on human beings, but war on the fear of letting voices soar. A century ago, Toastmasters set pace, and 3 centuries after came the race to space. But our race to space is learning to raise the levels of our speech till we reach the stars. A century ago, Toastmasters touched down, and almost a century after came the first lockdown. Coronavirus took our loves, our lives, our why, and Toastmasters gave us a home when we were stuck in our homes. So whether rain or shine, through the pain of life, and through the wars that seem to rage for the rest of time. A century ago, our forefathers had a vision, and it falls on our shoulders to carry forward that mission. We are more than a club. This is more than some fun. This is more than a speech, and this is more than a role. We are more than committee. We are more than members. We are something far greater than what those titles mean. So Toastmasters, let's continue to change lives. Let's continue to plant seeds. Let's continue to prevail for the rest of time. A century ago, none of us had even met, but let's stand arm in arm as we look to what comes next. That was a century ago, and now we have a century to go. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much, Prince. That was amazing. And we applaud you for that wonderful poetry and reminding us of 100 years that we've come to this point, and we're all here today gathered in this room. So that's very, very special. So thank you for that. So the next item on our programme is our main speaker, Dan Rex. And to introduce that, I'm going to hand you over to our District Director, Danny Banks. So please put your hands together for District Director, Danny Banks.
Thank you very much, Sue. It gives me great pleasure and honour to introduce our special guest today, someone who truly embodies the spirit of Toastmasters and its mission of empowering individuals through communication and leadership, our Chief Executive Officer, Dan Rex. Dan joined Toastmasters headquarters in 1990, serving in a variety of roles in different departments, until in 2008, he became the organisation's Executive Director, a title which was changed in 2013 to Chief Executive Officer. He has a degree in modern languages, an MBA, and has also completed a strategic leadership programme through the University of Oxford, which I have to say, Dan, is very nice, but Oxford is in D91. So if we could possibly persuade you to undertake further study at the University of Cambridge, which is in our division. Just a suggestion, thank you. So what an amazing breadth of experience he brings to our meeting tonight. Working in all departments within HQ, being a Toastmaster for so long, we will be truly treated to a tour de force of Toastmasters and why we do what we do. On a personal note, whenever I've reached out to him, he's been extremely helpful and supportive. So thank you for that. And also something which I believe will endear him to most members of District 71, whether in England, Scotland or Ireland, is that he is an avid tea drinker and is a world expert in tea. So, as I say, that will endear him to most people in England, Scotland and Ireland, and Wales. Won't forget the Welsh. So, fellow Toastmasters and honoured guests, with the title of his presentation, Why We Do What We Do, please help me welcome our Chief Executive Officer, Dan Rex, to the floor to give his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, District Director Danny. It's good to see you again. It's been a few weeks since we sat at a table in mid-year training with so many amazing district leaders from around the world. I think I need to update my bio to add a week that I did at Cambridge. I didn't realize that was going to be divisive. It's the dark blue and the light blue, I think, and I've got both of those now. So I'm quite happy about that. Lovely to see each of you this evening, and I know that some people don't have their cameras on. Welcome. I hope that we are able to have a relaxed conversation. And I'm looking forward to providing my perspective on a couple of topics. Thank you to Elizabeth for inviting me and chasing me down over a couple of months to find this day to the right time and the right place. Now, I can't see you. You were here just a minute ago. The young lady who's in the Bahamas for spring or for winter break. And anyway, there you are, Joan Heels. Yes, we're very envious of you. It's been quite cold in Colorado these last several weeks. So good on you for enjoying the warm weather in the Bahamas during the cold winter in Canada. Well, District 71, congratulations. It's been a while since I've been able to meet with you and be part of this group. And since then, last year, the district achieved, I think it was Select Distinguished District. And it had been several years since the district had been distinguished. That's a huge deal to be Select Distinguished District. Some of you may not know this, but Select Distinguished District puts you in the top group of districts around the world. I don't know where the sequence was perfectly, but somewhere in the top 15 districts, top 10 perhaps, depending on levels of achievement. And that's an amazing thing. And some of you had no idea what I just talked about and what distinguished district even is or what District 71 means. So let me break it down just a little bit here. District 71, the clubs in Ireland, Scotland, the north of England. I don't think Wales. I think Wales is part of 91. Is that right, Denny? Yeah, I don't think you have Wales. So a district number is an interesting thing. We use it to define because we have a lot of districts. And so we put a number on there. It helps the computer know who you are and the things that are happening in the clubs that are assigned to your district. So it's kind of a big deal, but occasionally district numbers change. We're more familiar with alignments that happen at the area and division level, but some of you have been part of district realignments, and those can be a little tricky because we have a sense of ownership and pride and history with our districts, and ultimately with our district number. So that's a district. A district is just a group of clubs that have been assigned together for a variety of purposes. Now, in terms of Select Distinguished District, again, that's a big deal. There are some things that have to happen at the local level for that to be accomplished. I'm going to share some slides here that will help me in this conversation. Let's see if we can get those up. There we go. All right. So congratulations again to the district, and here's what the job is that ultimately leads to the district being recognized as a distinguished district or better. And most of us, if we're at this kind of meeting, are very familiar with this. So we say we build new clubs. My first question is, who's we? Who is we in this context? And my perspective is this is not the club growth director by themselves trying to do this, what is an enormous job. It is anyone who is part of working together outside their club within the district. So we build new clubs. And how do we do that? Well, sometimes people come to us and say, hey, we want to have a club in our community or in our company and our government agency. And other times someone brings us an idea and says, there's this community over here that doesn't have a club, or this organization built a new office building and maybe they want one. The best way I've seen this happen is when people get involved from the club level up and become part of this. Ted Corcoran is here tonight. Hi, Ted. Ted and I have a very similar shared history to attending early club meetings. An area director once came to me in my office and said, hey, we're building a new club in the town where you are, and I'd like to have you come and help me do the demonstration meeting. And I thought, well, that's a pretty good idea. I'm the marketing guy for Toastmasters. I should be part of that. So I accompanied this area director to the demonstration meeting, and I forgot the role that I had. He asked me to do something as part of that meeting. It went well. We had 20 plus people there. Everyone that he knew that he had brought to the meeting was assigned to bring 2 or 3 more people. So I grabbed 2 or 3 people and I brought them with me, and so did a lot of others. And we started the club on that day. And it was an amazing thing. But it was let's have a demonstration meeting, let's have a club. We did it, and away we went. Now, here's where my experience overlaps with Ted Corcoran's. I made the mistake of exiting to the washroom during part of the meeting, the demonstration meeting. And when I came back, I was the club president. Ted, I think that happened to you as well when you first attended a Toastmasters meeting. I may be taking a little bit of literary license here in my storytelling. Ted,
Just a bit.
do you recall? Yeah.
Yes,
just
the man who organized the meeting, booked the hotel, invited the Toastmasters, put the letter on the paper. He went to the men's room. And while he was away for the 2 minutes, this other man came over and said, "We're forming a committee. Will you do club president?" I said, "Okay."
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll also follow what my grandfather taught me is the Irish rule, where the details of the story can evolve to meet the needs of the point that one is trying to make. Any of the Irish in the room agree with that? I'll go with that. My Irish grandfather, he's a great storyteller. So we build new clubs, and that's a big part. Their clubs don't always last for 100 years, like club number 1 in California has lasted for 100 years. The average lifespan of a club is somewhere 3.5 to 5 years. It's shortening a little bit right now, and that's not a good thing. So we need to organize new clubs to replace them. We certainly lost a lot of clubs during the pandemic. So there are many places that used to have clubs that don't anymore. And we can go back and look at those locations and those communities or companies and see if we can restart a club there. That's happening very, very frequently right now. And to those of you who are district leaders, if you need any sort of exception relating to organizing new clubs that fell during the pandemic and are trying to come back, please just drop me an email, drex@toastmasters.org, and let's have a conversation about that, because we want to get all the clubs back that we possibly can. So to be a select distinguished district or any level of distinguished district, we have to build new clubs. Now, this next one is fascinating to me. We support all clubs in achieving excellence. Now, as a group of people that are a district, how do we do that? Well, in many ways. Club officer training is a huge piece of this, but it's not the only piece. Area director visits, that's an interesting one to me. Now, we know that the area director must visit the club at least 2 times during the year to get credit. If the club is struggling, 2 is not nearly enough. The role of the area director is not to simply go and say, I attended this club meeting, check the box and say, I'm moving on my way to getting credit for being an area director. Dr. Ralph Smedley, in the early days of Toastmasters, said that the area director is the most important person in the organization, save perhaps the international president. And the reason is because the area director is right there next to the clubs, seeing what's happening, and has the primary responsibility and opportunity to support those clubs in getting to the next level. Everything else that we do as a district is designed to support clubs in achieving excellence. Why do we have a conference? Well, we have a conference because we need to elect the district leaders for the next year. Why do we elect the district leaders for the next year? So that they can work on this district mission and work on achieving the mission. That's really the only reason. Everything else, speech contests, all the other pieces are designed to support clubs in achieving excellence and give opportunities to individual members to participate outside of their club meetings. So this district mission, really a critical piece. And thank you to everyone from all the clubs in the district that were part of being Select Distinguished last year. It takes every single club to do that. It's not the work of 3 people or 7 people or 10 or 20. It's everyone, and every meeting counts. If you're wondering, well, where is this contained? What is all this about? Go to this place, dashboards.toastmasters.org, or just do a quick search, Toastmasters dashboards. In the top left corner, you can select your district and you can look at it. When I look at District 71, how you doing this year? You're okay. You're within a good distance, a reachable distance in terms of the number of clubs that you have in the district, paid clubs in the district. In your total membership payments, another sort of critical one, you're above 60%, but just a little bit. I'd like you to be a little closer to 65% by this time of year. So easy to do. And again, thanks, Cheryl, for dropping that into the chat. Dashboards.toastmasters.org. If I'm speaking a language you're not familiar with, this will help you understand that just a little bit more. Dr. Smedley, great insights in his readings. And one of my favorite pieces that he wrote in the story of Toastmasters is that he received again and again and again the question, why did you start the Toastmasters Club? And that's the way he phrased it, not Toastmasters International. Why did you start the Toastmasters Club? And his response, really easy. Why did you join? He saw a need, and people saw that need, understood it within themselves, and joined. And I'll get to that need in just a minute, but Smedley wrote about this when he was this age. But something that I don't think we think about or talk about enough is that this is Smedley at the age when that first club was started. He was a young man, and he had this vision and insight to see a need in the marketplace and not be afraid to talk about it. Sometimes we're a little afraid to talk about the goodness of Toastmasters, and yes, we've all experienced it. And a little bit later, I'll ask us each to imagine a beautiful, magical moment that we have seen and experienced at a Toastmasters Club meeting. So Smedley said, I saw people who needed to learn how to talk, to conduct meetings, to plan programs, and work on committees. Interesting, he said, learn how to talk. He didn't say stand behind a lectern and give a speech, because he viewed it as much more than that. Speaking, evaluations, table topics, being the timer and being able to give a timer's report, conduct the meeting as the Toastmaster, plan programs as the Vice President Education and supported by the Toastmaster of the meeting, and work on committees. What are the other support pieces that happen in a club meeting? This Sergeant at Arms needs someone to help them get the facilities right. All of these are less formal today than they were years ago, but they're still critically important, and all things that 100 years later, we still learn at our club meetings. Now, that was a question that Smedley was often asked. Here's one that I'm often asked. It is, hey, Dan, how come being a distinguished club or area or division or district is the most important thing in Toastmasters? And I scratch my head about that, because it is absolutely not. It's important, but it's not the most important thing. And it's really not the end game that we as an organization want to happen. So the reality is that large organizations like ours create complicated quantitative systems to measure outputs and motivate performance. And what do we call those? We call them the District Recognition Program, the Division Distinguished Division Program, Distinguished Area Program, and the Distinguished Club Program. But is that the end game? And my answer to that is not the end game. Achievement is important. It demonstrates that we're doing the right things the right way, in the best way that we can observe and measure in a quantitative way. The area director has a better idea about a club's excellence and success than we could ever get by reading a Distinguished Club Program report, but it's a different way. It's observed and measured in a different way. So clubs, the club mission. Again, it starts with we, very deliberate we. We provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. This is we. This is all of us at this club meeting. The we provide. We all do it. It's not just for the new members. It's not just for the officers. It's not just for the old timers. Any old timers in the room, raise your hand. Yeah, we're there. And sometimes we have to nudge a little bit to get the others to move on with us. And that's okay. But it's all of us. And we need to make sure that our new members understand that. And what do we provide? The supportive and positive learning experience. We don't give awful, mean evaluations. We applaud. Sometimes I think we applaud a little too much, but people feel good about that applause. It's supportive, it's positive, and it's a great experience in learning. We're experiential. That is a uniqueness that Toastmasters has that other organizations do not. in which members are empowered to develop. We don't have teachers, we don't teach. Members are empowered to experience this and develop who they are, develop their communication and leadership skills in a variety of ways, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. When we ask people, hey, why did you join Toastmasters? Very clear. I want to improve my speaking. My boss told me to go. My partner told me they didn't want me in the house on Wednesday night. You know, whatever it is that caused people to join. But the reality is when members have been around a while and they tell us why they stay, or even the skills that they learned after they've left, it's greater self-confidence and personal growth. It's amazing and consistent over decades of time. Now, how do we measure this? With a Distinguished Club program. Again, this is on the dashboards. You can go in the top left-hand corner, punch in your club name, and you will be able to pull up and see what it is that your club is doing that indicates that it's doing this. It's an indication that the club mission is being accomplished. The big outcome that we want, if we could wave a magic wand organizationally and your board of directors, the board would say, this is what we want. We want all clubs to be doing this. Well, it's a little tough to measure that if we're not in the room and not counting it up. So we count up the countable things on the dashboards. And we get a little bit deeper into the Distinguished Club program. Most of you are going to be familiar with this. Here we are with level 1 awards, level 2 awards, level 3 and level 4s, DTMs, 4 new members, additional 4 more new members, officers trained, and some dues renewals coming in. And achieving a certain number of these out of the 10, 5, 7, and 9, get you to different levels. None of this is coincidence. The data is regularly looked at to make sure that clubs that are good clubs are accomplishing what they need to do. And we look and say, so the good clubs in the last 5 years, how many new members did they add? Well, they added 8 during the year. Okay, that's an important thing. Let's put in 4 new members and 4 more new members. So historically, that's an average. To get a club somewhere in the 20 to 25 range, you need to add 8. Now, it might be 6 and it might be 12. It really depends on what's happening locally. But on average, that's it. And the award levels, why is that? We want to spread the experience out across multiple members. The club mission doesn't say that only a couple of people need to have personal growth and accomplishment. Everybody in the club needs to have personal growth and accomplishment. And that's why the awards are spread out. And each individual is limited to one of each kind of award during the year. So a quick rundown of the DCP. And if this is not familiar to you, and there may be some new club presidents or someone here with us today or seeing this later, if this is not familiar to you, talk with your area director, because your area director at every visit should be talking with you about this and what your progress is in the Distinguished Club program and why it's important to do this. And then district leaders, if you're a TRIO member who's here, and I see quite a few of you, recognize the clubs that are successful in this. Make sure that those who made distinguished last year are recognized after the end of the year. The TRIO switches around. Let's not forget about it. Let's appreciate and recognize accomplishment and what's happening. You know, that question that comes back to me again and again, is it the most important thing? It's not, but it's probably the most important measurable thing that we have in the organization. But the big deal, let's quickly review these missions. The Toastmasters International mission, we, again, starts with we very deliberately, empower individuals to become more effective communicators and leaders. The district's role, make sure there are enough clubs within a geography and make sure that those clubs are putting on really excellent programs. And we measure that with the district recognition program. The club mission, again, here we are. We provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. How many of you at the beginning of your club meeting, the sergeant at arms or someone recites the club mission? Raise your hand or raise your real hand or your yellow hand or whatever hand you're choosing. Yeah, that happens in a lot of clubs that I see. Often it happens at the beginning of the meeting where we might be running a minute late and we're hurrying to get through it. And we provide a supportive and positive learning experience Madam President, the meeting is now yours. I don't think we should treat the club mission so quickly. We've all been at meetings where a speaker isn't able to make it, and there's a gap in that program. I would encourage you to not give an old-time member a 5 to 7 minute table topic when a speaker isn't able to be there, but to put the club mission up and talk through it with the members of the club, to talk about what this actually means, why it is that we think about it, talk about it, and share it. Memories. Let's drop into memories for a few moments. If you're on this meeting today, you've been a member for a bit, you've had some amazing Toastmasters experience. Let's think about a moment when either you or an individual member had an amazing growth experience. And I'll pause for a few seconds to let us consider that and relive it just a little bit. Thanks. I'm going to tell you two of mine. The first one, I was a new club president. It was the club when I went to the men's room and came back and was the club president. We were a little over a year into the life of this club. We had gone from about 25 members with 18 to 22 in attendance, and suddenly we had dropped down to around 10 attending, and then we dropped to 8. And then one meeting, there were 6 of us. And I was the club president and the Toastmaster of the meeting and an evaluator. And I think I was the table topics master. Anyone been there? Anyone been part of those challenging times? Yeah. What did we do? We asked somebody for help. We said, we don't know what's happening here. And the question the area director asked us was, what changed recently? And we thought, well, our meetings are great. We're still having the same meetings. He said, no, what changed? And it took us a minute to figure it out, but we changed our meeting location. And our meeting location for people who weren't really familiar with the area was difficult to find. And financially, it was a great move. The room was fantastic. There was a beautiful view out the windows, but people couldn't find it and guests couldn't get there. And we thought, oh my gosh, we are blind to something. And it was a good thing we asked for outside help. 2 weeks later, we had a new meeting location. And our numbers jumped back up to 20 or around 20 in attendance and 25 to 30 members. And we kept that meeting location for a long time. We were fortunate to find a great place. What an insightful moment for our club officer team to go through a learning process, to challenge ourselves, to be challenged by this area director who set us up with a really good question. So as an officer, great, beautiful learning experience for me and for the officer team. Let's make it a little more personal. And this was not long after that experience. There was a new member who came to our meeting, and he had been referred by someone. He worked in the service industry where he was interacting face-to-face with people and having conversations with them. And the person who told him to join Toastmasters said, there's this thing called table topics. You should learn how to do table topics really well. So he told us this during the interview with the Vice President of Education, the goal setting interview and the why did you join interview. And I hope your clubs are having these types of interviews with all your new members and assigning mentors to them. But when we learned as an officer team that table topics was important to him, we waited a couple of meetings because he couldn't really look anyone in the eyes. He had a really difficult time speaking with us. And then assigned the table topics master to give him an easy question and set him up to come up and be and present a table topic. And he walked to the front of the room. In our club, it was a tradition to come up and walk and stand behind the lectern, and the table topics master was standing close by. And he received the question, and he didn't repeat the question. He just kind of nodded his head, and he looked out at us, and he didn't gesture, I'm sure, like I just did. He tried to speak and he couldn't speak. And he tried again and he couldn't speak. And you could see that he was getting terrified. And he tried one more time and he couldn't do it. And the table topics master, paying close attention here, as the table topics master should, stepped over and put his arm on his shoulder and said, "That's a great first effort for today. Go ahead and have a seat." And he, with relief, walked back to a seat to the same kind of applause that the winner of the table topics contest gets. And I will never forget that day and the pain that he had. A couple of weeks later, another question, another easy question. He got up and he said a few words. And it didn't make a lot of sense, but he got almost to 30 seconds. It was an amazing thing. It was an amazing thing. And 2 weeks later, he got up and made it to the red light. And it wasn't long before the timer was engaged and flashing the red light. Just like that one that just came on. Flashing that red light to have him sit down. Now, he didn't become a table topics contest winner, but his life was easier. His life was better. His confidence was so much higher when he was in his chosen career, working with his clients and customers. That was probably 25 years ago, and a moment that I'll never forget. And each of us has moments like that that we'll never forget, whether we experienced them ourselves or we witnessed other people experience them. That is why we do what we do. That is exactly why we work together and work oh so very hard to have amazing club meetings. A good club meeting is the beating heart of our organization, and in my mind, always will be, always should be. It's not about the district leaders. It's not about our board of directors, the region advisors, certainly not about me or my team. The most important thing in the organization, in my view, is the club meeting and having fantastic club meetings. So I'd ask you to take that memory that you've thought of this afternoon, to hold on to it and to pull it up when you need it, when things get a little tough, when you need something to keep you going, when your club is getting a little weak and it needs some help. Remember who we're there for and why we're there. We're not there for we, the old timers. We, the old timers, are there to help the others sometimes, as this we in the missions comes together and makes fantastic club meetings. District Director Danny, back to you.
Thank you very much for that. I believe we pass it over to Sue. Sue, are you there? There we go.
Thank you very much, District Director Danny Banks. And we have questions coming in thick and fast. So I will ask you to, I'll read out the questions for you, Dan, because everybody's been paying attention and really listening to your wonderful stories and how we can be more engaged with Toastmasters and why we're here. So first of all, what do you find the hardest part of leadership?
Wow, well, let's jump away from the primary topic very quickly in the first question. The hardest part of leadership for me changes from day to day and moment to moment. The hardest part of leadership can be, whatever is today's leadership challenge. Predictability, no, I'll evolve this a little bit. Predictability is the easiest part of leadership when things are going as we've planned. Lack of predictability and uncertainty are a very difficult part of leadership, especially if we're accustomed to things going well. And Prince earlier in his poetry mentioned the pandemic, and the pandemic knocked our organization all over the place. We went from being extremely predictable and consistent for decades at a time to a different and challenging place that we're still recovering from and still trying to find our solidity from. So uncertainty is the most challenging part of leadership for me.
Thank you very much for that response. And I'm sure these questions are going to be maybe on topic or not on topic. So I do apologize if it's not quite there, but I'm sure it's
No
a
worries.
relevant question, because if somebody's asked a question, then it's something that is, you know, something that they want to know. So the next question I've got here is from a club. They surveyed their membership who left, and that, which is quite interesting. And they discovered that 2 out of 3 intended to come back to Toastmasters in the future. So the question here is, how can World Headquarters help us to re-engage those departed members, especially those who left during the pandemic because they did not like the online experience?
Yeah. I'm intrigued that their responses were that they would return, and we find over time that that's what former members say. The vast majority of them would return at some time in the future. Whether they do or not is another story. We can help by providing contact information from people who were formerly members. That's a part that we're able to do. But the primary relationship between the individual member and Toastmasters is the club. And it's not a letter from headquarters or some kind of messaging from us that's going to cause someone to return. It's putting on quality meetings and inviting them, having the kind of environment that people want to come back to. You know, sometimes during the pandemic, some people became accustomed to the ease of online meetings. And part of the data that we're seeing is online meetings don't have the stickiness that in-person meetings do. But people don't like to commute as much as they used to. You know, they're less willing to spend the effort to travel just a little bit of time for a meeting. So it's a challenge, and I don't think there's a single answer that's going to get members back to meetings that departed. But restoring the magic of club meetings that many clubs have had before and are struggling to get back to, I think that's a critical piece of this.
Thank you for that response, Dan. And I have witnessed this myself. People do come back to Toastmasters, and the key ingredient is just keep in touch with them, because they will come back, and you can use this as a strategy to re-engage with those members. Just invite them to something, they'll come along. I just remember doing that just recently, and people came back, and it's like, I want to join again. So they will come back if you invite them to come back. So they just nurture that relationship.
If we treat them as alumni rather than as former customers, that can be very successful. Yeah, Cheryl just put in the chat, reunion meetings. Absolutely. That type of engagement, like you're still part of us. You may not be coming to every meeting, but you know, you're a member of the family, a member of the community. I agree with that.
Yeah, and I've had people reach out to me and said, oh, so I want to come back, and they've joined again, and they're now still members. And it's wonderful when they do come back, because obviously we've built that relationship with them, and we want them to still be part of our family, even if they haven't been for a while. So let's not forget them. Invite them back. I love that. I love that reunion. I love that idea. So we should create those adventures. Another question on a different topic is, how do we encourage and support area directors? Oh, yeah, actually, sorry, I think these questions are out of order, but never mind, it doesn't matter. How do we encourage and support area directors in having more challenging conversations with their clubs? Because sometimes I guess they can be whitewashed, but we don't want them to be whitewashed, because we want to help our clubs grow.
I think part of that is being truthful with prospective area directors about what the job really is. And not just that it's a job that requires challenging conversations or a lot of hours, but what are the benefits that you get from being an area director? What are the kinds of opportunities that you have? You have an opportunity to go into an environment that you're not familiar with as not quite an figure, but as someone who is welcomed, but maybe looked at a little bit differently. Those skills and that kind of practice directly applicable and useful in most people's work life. You know, we're not always in a place that we're highly comfortable with. If you need help in crafting difficult conversations, some amazing books, one Crucial Conversations, and then the follow-up books to that, those are really good at helping you understand and draft in your mind or on paper the kinds of conversations that you need to have. You know, I had an area director come to a club meeting once, and in our club, for ums and ahs, we just counted them up, and the ah counter told them later. This area director had come from a club where they used a bell, and they would hit the bell every time there was an or ah. And his feedback to us, unfortunately, was, well, you need a bell for people to be intimidated when they have their ums and ahs. And you know, that was not helpful feedback for our club. Hey, maybe you need to be a little bit more organized, or I saw this was missing, but in a productive, useful way. And if the area directors don't know what a good club meeting is, they need to spend some time with the division directors learning what the moments of truth are and how club meetings are supposed to run. Not all area directors come from great clubs, so they may misunderstand what needs to be said.
Thank you very much for that response. So while we're on this topic, how would you encourage someone to step up to an area director role?
For me, it's, do you want to have an opportunity to engage in leadership skills that you may not be having elsewhere in your life? Do you want to stretch yourself and communicate in different ways, evaluate in different ways that will help you in your personal and professional life? And, you know, by the way, you also get some more Toastmasters credit for this. And if you're, you know, you want to work toward a distinguished Toastmaster award, that kind of thing. But I would focus on the transferable skills.
That's very useful advice. And I have served as area director myself more than once, so I know it's a very rewarding role. And we would welcome anyone within our organisation to step up and take that role. But I think one thing that is important is to give those officers recognition. So how can clubs and Toastmasters in particular, in general, recognise area directors for the support that they do give to the clubs?
Yeah, you know, the trio members are the primary ones that are responsible for that, for recognizing and appreciating the area directors and the division directors. At nearly every meeting, I think it's important to appreciate those who are doing the vast majority of the day-to-day work, and the area directors are certainly in the middle of that. Some people need recognition in different ways. Some people like to have their name called at a meeting and have applause come. Other people want a private word, and I think it's important for those in leadership roles to understand what is driving different people and seek to appreciate them in a way that works for them, but appreciate them publicly too, so that the future area directors see what this is like, see what some of the instantaneous rewards are for doing the job.
Thank you very much for that response. It's always really important to appreciate our leaders and what they do and how they do it. Now, here's a question for you, Dan. What is your favourite club meeting role and why?
My club harasses me about this a little bit, but I love to be the grammarian because I am fascinated with language. And I love picking out great language that I perceive as being great and recognizing it. And some surprisingly beautiful things come from unexpected places. That's a very enjoyable part for me. I'd say the one that I do the most, and often when I visit clubs, they ask me to be the general evaluator. And that's another wonderful role and a great opportunity to be able to provide perspective. But yeah, grammarian is my favorite.
One of my favourites too, amongst others. Looking at things from a different perspective, can you share with us some current initiatives that are being worked on by the World Headquarters?
Oh, sure. Yeah, a few things that we're working on right now. One is we have got to make transactions between individuals in the organization much easier, and clubs in the organization much easier. We simplified Basecamp quite dramatically last year, and now this year, one of the things we're working on is payment systems. We also will have improved versions of pathways and the pathways content coming. I don't have a timeline for that, but we know that the content and pathways needs to continually grow and expand. We reduced it a little bit going into the new system, but we see it expanding in the coming years. Unfortunately, right now, organizationally, we're almost 30% smaller than we were pre-pandemic, and that's put us in some difficult positions in terms of budget. So we're not able to do all the things that we would wish to do or do them as quickly as we could. So we're focusing on those things that we believe will be highest value to club members and officers.
That's useful to know. And on that topic of budgets, I've had a question that's been posed today regarding some of the tools that we have, such as the Speechcraft, because we're in the digital age and they seem to be concerned that we're charging for these tools.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things that is hard for most of us to understand is that building and maintaining online systems is in some cases more expensive than printing and shipping items. So there tends to be a desire to, but you're not printing it anymore. Can't you just give us that for free? And the reality is it doesn't work that way. It's not the actual creation of a document. So creating a PDF document is super easy to do. It's creating the online systems that track accomplishment and would keep track of the people that are doing Speechcraft and participating in Speechcraft, or doing pathways, participating in pathways, and then having all those systems run automatically. That's where the cost comes in. And one would think that online systems would be less expensive than previous systems, but I've just not found that to be the case.
No, I can appreciate that there's a lot of things that go on in the background that we're not even aware of, and it's but there are many free tools that we can have access to, so I don't think that should be an issue as such. But moving on to technology and tools, how do you think AI and technology advances will change the way our clubs operate in the future? I bet you've been waiting for that question.
Oh, we could talk for hours about this. As an organization, we've been talking about, oh my gosh, what are computers doing to us for decades. Remember that Toastmasters began, and those first club meetings were all held before amplification systems and microphones were common. And then came microphones. And then came microphones that weren't attached to the lectern. And then came microphones that weren't held in your hand, right? They were attached to your jacket or put in your ear. So all of these things cause us to question, what is the value of Toastmasters? And AI is the most recent one. I think that AI will challenge the way that individual members write their content and develop their content, and probably support the way that content is written and developed. I wouldn't like to be a junior high or a high school history teacher right now asking kids to write reports, because AI can do that in just a few minutes. Well, the point actually wasn't to write the report. The point was to be able to learn a concept and share it back. And I think when we think about Toastmasters, AI is not likely to replace what we do, because the important pieces of Toastmasters are human interaction. And in fact, just in the last 2 weeks, I've seen major global leaders in business say that the skills that are missing in companies right now are soft skills. And then they go on to elaborate on what those soft skills are. The first one is communicate ideas. And the second one is collaborate and have conversations with other people. And I think, oh, thank goodness we're not, being shut out yet by the communication age. We're still relevant. And really, that's Toastmasters' secret ingredient for 100 years. People getting together online, mostly in person, over 100 years, of course, and learning how to communicate with each other effectively. I don't think that part will go away.
Thank you. And AI is here. I know it's a big thing that people have latched onto just in recent times, but does it have a positive role in how Toastmasters experience can be improved?
Well, if we knew what the end game of AI is going to be, we might be able to answer that question better. AI as it stands today, can it help? Sure, it can help you clean up language when you write a speech. Absolutely, it can do that. And there are some AI functions that can, through video, help us work on different physical tics that we have and count our ums and ahs and that sort of thing. I think those are the places where it's helpful right now. Can and will AI replace Toastmasters down the road? I think no one knows that, but I don't see yet a way for AI to do that.
Thank you for that response. It's always useful to explore new opportunities and see how they can work for us rather than against us, and how we can use them as tools to help us develop. Because we all want to development at the end of the day, and we want to be abreast, up to date with what's going on in the world. And in terms of what's going on in the world, is the recent relationship with LinkedIn a new growth strategy for TI?
Yeah, LinkedIn is an interesting one. LinkedIn, huge, global, millions and millions of views, many more views than the Toastmasters website would have. And we've been working with LinkedIn for quite some time because they recognized and appreciated our brand and wanted to add a touch of our credibility to some very credible content that they've been working on. So it is an opportunity in a way to put the Toastmasters brand in front of more eyes. It's certainly not the only way. It's not maybe the only effective way. Most people still join Toastmasters because someone asked them to. But the exposure, the initial exposure to the brand and understanding what Toastmasters is and does, the LinkedIn arrangement is a part of that, yes.
That's great. Now, just to finish, got the red light. Can we ask one more question? I think we can.
Absolutely.
What's the one leadership lesson that you would want to share with other aspiring leaders?
Do it. Take the opportunity and lead. Don't be afraid to lead. You will always make mistakes as a leader. Every leader does. Some are more obvious and more public than others. Some are private. But don't be afraid to lead, and don't be afraid to make mistakes that will help you grow and ultimately become a better leader.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for this evening's presentation and your time that you've taken to answer our questions. There were many, many, many more questions, and we don't have time this evening. So thank you to everyone for providing me with some wonderful questions for our guest speaker tonight. So I'm now going to pass over to Jenny Chalmers for the vote of thanks. So over to you, Jenny Chalmers.
Thank you. Fellow Toastmasters, and especially our guest speaker, Dan Rex. Dan, I am delighted that you are able to spend time with us in District 71 today. It's good to know that the need for Toastmasters is just as great today as it was 100 years ago. Thank you for sharing your insights, memories, and wisdom with us. And for me, the great takeaway message is a good club meeting is the beating heart of Toastmasters. Please join me in thanking Dan for being with us this evening. Over to you, Danny.
Am I on this bit of the agenda? Okay, I just reiterate that. Thank you so much for giving up your time on a Sunday to be with us in D71 and to go over that and to answer those questions thoughtfully and honestly. And it's good to see that, Toastmasters is engaging with us, in the district. And so thank you very much for that. And I look forward to hearing you again and hopefully meeting you again soon at the conference. So
Thanks,
thank you,
Danny. I
everybody, for
appreciate it.
attending.
Pleasure to be here.
And take care. In my old role as a teacher, you're dismissed for the evening. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And take
Thanks,
care.
Dan. Thanks, Danny. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Sue.
you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Matty.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Dan.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, thanks a lot.
everyone.
Thank you
Great.
all. Take care.
Yeah,
Thank
great.
you
Thank
all.
you.
Great job,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. See you all soon. Yeah. Thanks very much.
Thank
Great
you
job.
to all from
Yeah.
Mexico. Thank you.
Ah,
De nada.
Ah,
thanks, David. Thanks. Thanks,
Okay,
Steve. Good to see
thank
you.
you. Bye.
And
Have a
Cheryl,
nice
Cheryl, thank
Sunday.
you so much.
You're so
Thank
welcome.
you.
This was wonderful. Well done. Well
Oh,
done.
thank you. Thank
Glad
you.
I
And
attended.
I know, and I'm really thanks for keeping the chat busy and relevant and so on. Thank you so much. Good to see you twice in a week. We're doubly
know,
honored,
right?
Cheryl.
Well done.
We'll consider you a friend of District 71. Yeah. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, and thanks, Jenny. Beautiful. Really well done. Yeah. Thanks very much, George. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.